coming at it with anything less than reverence and respect, I think, is a mistake. I mean, in terms of specific stuff, you got to understand how it works, right? These houses have stood up because you kiln dry it every winter, right? So if you start messing with it, you better make sure you know what's going on.
Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk Podcast, a regular discussion with building industry professionals. This is the second half of our two-part interview with builder Dan Kolbert of Portland, Maine. You can find the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk Podcast and the original Fine Homebuilding Podcast at finehomebuilding.com/podcast, where you can also leave feedback and ask questions. So what about the new homes you build? Is there a sweet spot of those? Or are they big, little, simple shapes like you were talking about?
So it's hard for me to have a statistical sample, but certainly, we try to do relatively small, 2,000 and under, simple. If they're not interested in pushing energy efficiency, then I'm not going to do it, right? I don't have any great attachment to new construction. And in fact, I've got very mixed feelings about new construction in general. So I don't have any, I don't have a huge desire to build new houses. I mean, it's fun and in some ways it's more fun than renovation, but from a social utility standpoint, it's hard to justify in general. So unless it's something that I feel like, you get the picture. It's got to be aligned with our values. I mean, I feel like mostly new construction, I feel like every new house is a missed opportunity of some sort or another. So
you just were touched on it briefly, is like you don't want to work for people who don't share your construction goals. I guess you can't get them to see the light on every aspect of home building, but how do you try and get them to do the right thing with regard to their projects?
So I think that, I've been around long enough that I have a reputation. So I think my clientele is somewhat self-selecting.
They know that you go to Dan if you want to build a good performing home, right?
Yeah, or you don't go to him if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So, it's not, people aren't approaching me to build a McMansion. I'm trying to think of like some fights we've had where we really had to convince the client. I mean, not fights, where the client has been resistant to do something. It's really been a while since, mostly it's myself. I mean, I feel like I'm the one I need to push harder, right? Like there's products we use because they're easy, even if I know we probably shouldn't be using them. So I feel like I get lazy.
Because every contractor needs things to work, right? And you need to pick your battles.
And I'm not an early adopter. I'm not particularly courageous. I'm not trying crazy things out. And I'm kind of chickened. So,
what do you think about the rest of the residential construction sector? Are they doing a good job? Are we building good houses? I mean, when I drive around, I'm not exactly delighted with what I see. What about you?
No, they suck.
Yeah.
I think we all owe Huber a huge debt of gratitude, right? I mean, I think Zip System has just been fantastic in that, you're doing a pretty good job air sealing your house, whether you want to or not, just by using their product. So that's cool. I mean, in the beginning, Zip just got so popular so fast that I figured there had to be something wrong with it. And some of the early Zip was somewhat problematic. I built a house very early on with Zip, and there were some issues, but I really think I think Huber is just a wonderful company, and, it's come out with some great products. And obviously there's more, in the meantime, there's a lot of things out there, but Zip just has such a huge part of the market. And it's just so great that, the air seal is just baked into it.
Yeah, that's what I like about it too. It seems pretty tough to beat in that regard. What about employees? Do you have trouble finding and keeping employees? Like I hear a lot of contractors and, subcontractors say.
Yeah. It's really hard. I'm small. I've never had more than 5 people in the field. Um, so, I'm not like constantly looking for people to fill out my 15-person crew. Um, but yeah, it is hard, and I think being established and having a good reputation, is a help there too. Um, I think you definitely want to try to have a reputation as a good place to work. It's going to make everything a lot easier. Um, but it's really hard, and again, I think it's a grave we've dug ourselves, right? The pay scale has always been mediocre. The working conditions are tough. The benefits, when I was working for other companies, paid time off was basically they'd take us out to lunch on Christmas Eve and let us take the afternoon off.
Yeah.
So, it's tough.
And there's, for at least a generation or probably 2 or 3, it has been not looked upon as a way to make a good living and enjoy what you do. It's like seen as the end of the line, right?
Right. Yeah, and I'm actually on the board, the advisory board for a couple of academic programs, and that's definitely a battle. It seems to be shifting, but for many years, the battle was not with the kids. The battle was with parents and guidance counselors.
Discouraging.
Thinking that Voc school, that whatever we call it, CTE, was a worthy way to spend your time.
What do you think? Some folks think that attracting more women and people of color to the industry would help. Is that something we should be working harder at?
Yeah, and I mean beyond those two categories, anybody who's not, queer people have not particularly been in the trades, any category.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great career, and I think that again we've dug our own graves, right? Because we've made it out to be, I don't know how it got so white, other than whatever.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
So on the subject, you have 4 kids, right?
Me personally?
Yeah.
2 kids.
2 kids, a boy and a girl?
Man and a woman at this point.
Sure. Would you want them to be in the family business? Would you want them to work in the trades?
Well, coincidentally, my daughter is actually currently working for me.
Cool.
She did her first year in college last year, and knew that she did not want to do distance learning, so she took this year off. And she had some other jobs prior to now, but she asked if she could come work for me, and I said sure. So it's been a few weeks, and I think I'm excited that she's going to learn stuff. I seriously doubt she's going to make a career of it, but if she wanted to, I'd be thrilled. I think that I think the trades are great. I think the trades are great for any number of reasons, but in terms of like talking to a kid about the trades, it's a job that is always going to be there. It's going to change, certainly, and whatever, robotics and all sorts of things are going to change it, and prefab and all that. But, you still need somebody there, and there's always renovation work and whatever. And you can't install a toilet from 2 continents away.
Right.
So there's that. It's exciting. I mean, I think, I don't know, these kids, I think a lot of them are pretty sick. They're digital natives, but I think a lot of them are ready to not be doing something on the computer.
And when you and I were in school, you used to have shop class to at least have an introduction that you might like this stuff, and those kids don't get that at all now. Yeah. And I think we're missing out.
Yeah, I agree. I think right, and I also think it's a great. There are plenty of smart, creative kids who either are dyslexic or just don't like the classroom or whatever, and I think the trades is the perfect place for them. I think that you can do any, you can pursue any interest you might have, right? If you're math and science related, we all know there's a ton, everything in building and framing certainly is geometry. There's all the building science stuff, if that's what you're interested in. The HVAC world is incredibly science
technical. Yeah.
If you're artistic, there's the design world. There's obviously plenty of construction is design related. There's just if you like dealing with people, you can go into the business side of it, or maybe project management or whatever. There's any. I think it can absorb just about any interest or character trait.
How do we get the HVAC techs to be more savvy about what they're doing? That seems to be a problem. Have you had those conversations with the folks you work at the technical
Yeah,
education?
yeah. Well, not so much the tech side, but on the construction side, it is tough. I mean, yeah, I don't know what the answer is to that one. I mean, I think that they're all learning more, but yeah, there's a lot. I have a worry that there's going to be a real backlash against the heat pumps in another few years, because a lot of these installs are
Jeff is like ready to lose his mind over there. I can tell. He's saying, "Why do you think that?"
yeah. I think it's great technology. We use them all the time, but I think I see a lot of I think there's a lot of really bad installs
Hmm.
that's going to shorten the life of the equipment. I think there's a lot of bad design too. I don't know. We're
You
lucky.
mean system design or
Yeah,
product design?
system design.
Uh huh.
We're lucky in Maine. We've got Dana Fisher, who's been a regular in our discussion group. He used to work for Efficiency Maine, which was like the quasi public trust that pushed efficiency, and now he's actually been working for Mitsubishi for a while, and he is just incredibly smart about heat pumps and has done a great job in Maine, at least, about educating us about what good and bad design looks like. And a lot of these systems just are not designed to be efficient.
Hmm.
They're so anyway, and
That's
then
interesting because like we're all counting on electric heat pumps to take the place of fossil fuel burning appliances, and
right,
hope you're wrong.
and they can, they should, but
Yeah.
but it needs to be, but they need to be done right.
You have a forthcoming book.
Apparently so.
Do you want to tell our listeners about it and me about it? Because this
Sure.
was news to me. They don't tell me anything, maybe for
Yeah.
good reason.
Yes. So. Yeah. We are. Taunton Press approached some of us about writing a pretty good house book. Uh, and it is me, Mike Maines, Emily Mottram, and Chris Briley. So Emily and Mike, I'm sure most of your listeners know from BS and Beer.
Yep.
And Chris Briley used to have a podcast with Phil Kaplan called
The Architect's Lounge, right?
Yep. So we have been, we've thought about it over the years. We've tried a couple of times. Mostly we've just been too busy. Something about the current moment, it clicked. Maybe it was the pandemic or whatever, but
I think, frankly, book sales are up. That's why.
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
So, when Peter at the press approached us, it just seemed like it was the right time to do it.
So, what is it? Is it a textbook? Like, how would you describe it? How is
No,
it set up?
I would say, I mean, we're trying to write for multiple audiences, but presumably the primary audience will be people who are interested in building a house, or people who own a house and are interested in renovating.
Hmm.
But we want to make it useful for pros too. So, we've each written a chapter at this point.
Do you have a expected date when this will be available for folks to purchase?
I think there is a date, but I can't remember it. I think maybe in a year, maybe about. But
It takes a while. Doing a book is a big project.
Yeah, and we have a lot of work to go, obviously, and we, and in fact, if people out there are interested, we want to do a lot of case studies, even if it's something as simple as like one specific detail that somebody has come up with for a house. So if people out there have things that they're interested in sharing, I think Emily just made it live. If you go to the website, prettygoodhouse.org, I think that there should be a link by now. And if not, I'll make sure we get one up soon where people can sort of, there's a quick form to sort of put in a case study. We'd like to do case studies in general, even if they're not in the book. We'd love to just collect case studies for the website anyway.
If anyone listening who wants to check that out, I'd be happy to forward you that link if you write to the podcast email box, which in case Dan's thing is not ready, we'll move those along to him for
Right.
listeners.
And it's easy to find. I'm sure if you look for a pretty good house, I assume you'll get to our website pretty quick.
So this is my favorite part of the show.
Oh,
Can you
boy.
tell me about your own house, and do you have any cellulose insulation that's spilling out from anywhere that you want to come clean about?
No cellulose insulation spilling out. My house is a disaster. I am definitely.
So what is it like? Is it a little bungalow, or like what does it look like?
My house is kind of, it's it doesn't have any overwhelming style. It's slightly Victorian-ish. It's, it's built sometime around 1890. It is,
Supremely efficient, I'm sure.
yeah. I'm actually trying to sign. It's got the original siding on it on the second floor, which is pretty beat. So I am, but the problem is it's beveled shingles, so they cost a fortune. So I am trying to save my pennies to re-side, and I will do a boatload of air, not a boatload, that's the other. Air sealing has gotten a lot easier on old houses with the self-adhering stuff.
You like that stuff? You like, what is it, Henry Blueskin? Is that the one you use?
I like it all. Yeah. No, I'll probably use the, when Ben was working for us, he got his hands on a couple of free rolls of Obdike's, the bumpy
Slicker.
stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I want to get a little bit of a rain screen, but I'm in the historic district, so I can't really add any thickness to the walls.
Hydrogap SA.
Okay, that's it.
Took me a minute.
At least I think that's what it is. Anyway, it's one of those stickies with bumps on it. So we'll use that. But we've used a bunch. Partly because of Steve, I tend to use a lot of Sega stuff because Steve Constantino's right here and stocks all the Sega stuff. So I use a lot of that. But we certainly use Blueskin. It's a great product. I don't use it when I don't have to. I use it when I think it's great on old houses.
Great for board sheathing, right? That's
exactly.
the point. Yeah.
Right. You just have to be careful. We are, I am on the board of this building downtown called Mechanics Hall, which has this great history, which I won't bother getting into. But anyway, it's under historic. We get historic pres money to work on it. And so we have to, one of the things I've learned is, you can't use sticky stuff on historic pres for obvious reasons. But
because it's not reversible, is that the problem?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Are there other projects you would take on? Are you pretty happy with the place? Is it uncomfortable?
With my house?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of stuff. We've done a pretty good job on the second and third. There was a big unfinished attic, which we really loved when we bought the place. And of course it took us, I think I finally got it done in time for my son's 18th birthday party a few months before he left home. That's always I always tell the story to my clients when they're thinking about whether or not to do it. And I say, do it now. While
it done.
While your kids are still here and can enjoy it. So anyway, we've done a pretty good job on the second and third floors. And when I did the third floor, we really insulated the hell out of it. I gusseted it down the rafters and did a double, built another wall inside the exterior wall. So that's well insulated and well air sealed. And then the second floor, just interior renovations. But the first floor, we've done very little to, and it's kind of a mess.
Are you tempted to redo the windows? That's a question that folks ask us on the podcast all the time, is living next to cold windows worth it? Or should you, in order to maintain the historic integrity of the home, leave them alone?
Well, for better or worse, I have no choice because I'm in a historic district, so I can't touch the windows. But no, I don't think you should ever. I don't think replacing windows is ever is ever worth the payoff. If they're trash, then sure. But
what about the comfort issue that people complain about? Sitting next to an old window is cold, and it is, right?
Put on a sweater, you big baby. There are ways, sure, but we all know. Unless you're spending a fortune, we know replacement windows suck.
Don't work. Yeah.
Right. You've got a window that's 150 years old. If you're lucky, you'll get 20 or 30 years out of its replacement. We've done stuff. We've done, haven't done it in a while, but we used to do more interlocking weather strip.
Mm-hmm.
You guys in Connecticut have that great company.
Does interior storms, right?
No, the weather strip. I'm blanking on the name. Accurate, and down near New Haven. Anyway, if you get interlock and you can definitely cut down on air infiltration. They make good storm windows. I just think the windows are beautiful. Getting rid of the windows just detracts a lot from a house.
What do you think other people make a mistake doing with old houses? What makes you cringe?
I think doing anything to an old house is usually a mistake, right? I mean, I just think
on the exterior, I presume you're talking about. Yeah.
And even on the interior, that's one of the reasons why I've had a hard time renovating the first floors, because it's got some incredible woodwork, and I just don't want it makes me cringe every time I think about messing with it. I think, coming at it with anything less than reverence and respect, I think, is a mistake. I mean, in terms of specific stuff, you got to understand how it works, right? These houses have stood up because you kiln dry it every winter, right? So if you start messing with it, you better make sure you know what's going on, right? A lot of them, the flashing may not be great. There are all sorts of issues that can happen. You should not be incredibly cautious about using any caulk on the outside of an old house.
Mm-hmm. You've been a joy to talk to, Dan. Is there anything you want to ask or tell our listeners before we part company?
Let's see. I think if you have, if you're a parent, don't discourage your kid from going into the trades. If you're a homeowner, really enjoy your house. And if you're a contractor, especially in renovations and in new construction, just look for the opportunities. I think that, there was a period where I was pretty burnt out, and getting interested in building science really saved my career. I think it just got me interested in what I was doing again.
It gave you a higher purpose, would you say?
Definitely. I mean, I always struggle with the social utility of what we do. I think that, single family detached is very problematic. So the only way I can do it is to really try to
make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks to Dan Kolbert for joining us, and thanks to all of you for listening. Please remember to send us your comments, questions, and suggestions to fhbpodcast@taunton.com. And please review us, or make a comment, however you're listening to this podcast. Stay safe, everybody. Thanks again for listening. Keep craft alive. That was terrible.